As you know, because you and I work closely on a lot of the board work we do today, there is a heightened focus, I think, for all the good reasons, on ethnic diversity. And following BLM, a lot of our clients are, in essence, trying to achieve ethnic diversity, both at the board level where it's got to start, but permeate throughout the whole organization. What would you share with the audience have been the reasons you've been successful in building ethnically diverse organizations?
Yeah, it's a great question, Bill. And I first want to really acknowledge your leadership and the work at your extraordinary firm and what you've done for generations, both on C-suite searches, both on the board side. I know that you are personally committed to this important initiative. I think tone at the top is really, really important. As you know, I've had the privilege of now serving on 7 public company boards. I've taken 2 companies public. I think having that right tone at the top and having a diverse board, both men and women, certainly having people of color, I think the richness of the conversation and the different experiences is of paramount importance. And the evidence shows that those diverse companies perform better. I think that is a fact, and it certainly, I think, provides additional evidence as to why that's so important. One of the things that I think that boards can do is they can provide both framework and encouragement. They can also make sure that there are incentive plans, particularly on the comp side, those management teams to make sure that they are pushing and working hard to have really diverse management teams. I benefited in my career from having a lot of mentors. They happened to be white men early in my career, both at Marriott and both at Hilton, who took an interest in me, who challenged me. And as a result, those mentors over time became sponsors. That's critically important. Some of those sponsors today are still dear friends of mine. Those that are living, I still talk with them. They're still our advisors. They're still friends. They're still people that I reach out to. And when a mentor can turn to a sponsor and say that Tom or someone else can do that job, give him, give her a chance, it really carries weight. It's really helpful. I think the recipient, that mentee, has to recognize that responsibility. And he or she has to continue to work hard and prepare themselves. And I certainly never wanted to disappoint any of my sponsors along the way that took an interest in me. And I think that's terribly important. I think companies have to use a wider funnel and a broader outreach. Bill, I think you have just done extraordinary work with that by having your network, that when you reach out for different searches as you're looking, I think that's wise. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I wish more people would do that because I think it's a great way to help place people not only for boards but also for C-suite opportunities. Um, and I also think reaching out to universities and colleges that you wouldn't necessarily. There are a lot of talented young men and women at historically black colleges, whether that's at Morehouse or Howard or Spelman. And having that outreach, again, widens that funnel and also gives a broader pool of people in which to draw from. But when people, those young students join, when they can see someone, a man or woman of color who has risen or is rising within that organization, and they can envision that if I work hard, if I continue to behave, perhaps dress, follow um, uh, the approach. I learned so much from my mentors, and it's simple things that because I didn't have anyone in my family that had been in business, so it's simple things as to how they presented, how they looked, how they spoke. I mean, it's little nuances like that. All of those are teachable moments as part of that growth. And then you learn about excellence. You also learn there were styles that I learned along the way that candidly, styles that I did not necessarily want to follow. But it was good that I saw that there were men and women whose styles that weren't necessarily compatible with mine. Some of them succeeded and others of them didn't. And I could see the correlation of that. So that was also helpful for me in my
Hmm.
career.
One follow-on question, and then I'll turn it back to Peter. They talk about this issue of unconscious bias. How important is it to create a culture which is more accepting and understanding?
Terribly important. We have required all 100%. We go through what we call Compliance June, where we go through a series of different training modules, and we require everyone, including me. And unconscious bias is an important part of that. Let's be honest, and if we're honest with ourselves, we all have that unconscious bias. We all suffer from that. And I think part of being open is just being acknowledging it and thinking about what those cues are, what those triggers are. And there have been examples where you take two students who have the exact same experience, the exact same education, but you change one name to more of an ethnic name, and for whatever reason, that ethnic name is never picked to get that interview or get to the next round of that interview. That's a perfect example of an unconscious bias, and we all have to sort of check ourselves as we're working through. We spend a lot of time making sure that we have the appropriate outreach, that we have a wider funnel, and that we also want to make sure that we're giving men and women of color an opportunity. There's no guarantee. They have to have the experience, they have to be a good fit, but there are also examples. I'd say half of the people that worked with me at RLJ and probably a third of the people at Park don't necessarily have a lodging background. If they're smart, if they have that mindset of continuous improvement and continuous learning, they can make that pivot. We can teach them the fundamentals of real estate and the fundamentals of the lodging business. And I think that's important too, that we shouldn't just recycle men and women that have been in the business for so long. We look for that next generation of leaders.